we predict, we did this is a chart from the last presentation, we still predict that 2022, it's going to be a market very close to 2019, very healthy market. We will have a drop of the activities. We strongly feel that yes, the government will raise the interest rate. It's not because only of the real estate market, it's massively because of the inflation. So the inflation, it's really being out of the control right now. We need to really make sure that the consumers, they can afford to buy the product. One of the product is the houses, it is. And the consumers are reaching to a point that it's just basically now two factors. There's a buyer fatigue. There's also buyers that basically saying, okay, I'm going to pack and leave Ontario. I'm going to, or a smaller urban center, which is, there is a much more better supply versus here. So the market, expect the interest rate increase. Expect for sure, because it's going to be the #1 priority on an election year, expect that Mr. Doug Ford, it's very similar to the Kaplan when under 2017, will introduce some monetary policies regarding the housing. It could be expanding the stress test instead of +2, making it +4 to offset the prices, which did help last time and drop the activities. When you drop the activities, even that 5% drop in the prices or 7 or 10% drop in the prices is fine. There is nothing wrong with the market. You got to look at always, you can't look at, I have always mentioned this, you cannot look at compare 1 year to the other year. You have to at least have a 5 years cumulative. The data you said is your market. Is it a balanced market, seller market, or buyer market? In 2017, it's still, the inventory was sitting at about 3 to 4 months. It was still below 4 to 7 months, which is the balanced market. So there is also conflict of the policies with the federal and provincial. So although I would love to see revisit of the immigration policies, I don't think so it's going to happen, because the federal government really look at the general picture of the Canada, not only Ontario, and they really needs to bring immigrants and investment, sort of creating more taxpayer for this country. So that won't happen. But there will be provincial policies for sure will happen. And then another segment of the provincial policies will be towards the speculative people, because right now we have a sufficient data that talks about anywhere between 10 to 24%, depending on what segment of the investor are there. So, and sometimes, although we are practitioner in this business, we have always mentioned and said to you, we feel some of these policies is good for a long run. We need a balanced market. We need a market that has been sustainable, not out of the control. Remax, Hallmark, Realtor are professional practitioners, full-time practitioners, and they can weather this storm like the last time better than any other competition. So what's the fix? The fix, we talk interest rate. I hope they will look at the immigration policies, speculative and mortgage policies were going to happen. And you will see, because of the election, there will be some transit and housing policies will be announced by Mr. Ford. The election is in June. Expect these policies to be announced sometimes between March and April, as soon as the campaign start, and they will be on the road, and they want to get the public attention. So 2022 outlook of the market, strong growth in the condo market across the region and across the low density product. So condo market will do quite well in large cities such as Ottawa, such as Barrie, such as Toronto, London, and in smaller urban centers such as Kingston, Kitchener, Waterloo, you will see the semis, the townhouses will perform quite well. Interest rate will increase, but money still is cheap. We're sitting at a quarter base rate by the Bank of Canada. Top 5 CO banks are asking for drastic increase, not a quarterly basis, maybe half a point increases. So within the 2021, for sure, we will be back at the bank rate of the sitting at least 1 point. Increase of the inventory. Once those policies by the provincial government introduced, you will see the number of the transaction drops, and therefore that means the increase of the 10% in the transaction, but not significant drop in the list price. Out of the major urban centers remain the main driver, time to explore other provinces. That's what's going to happen. Nova Scotia is sitting on the top of the list. A lot of people are moving to Halifax. and it will continue that road. And many people this year basically will take a look at outside of the major urban center. The cities and municipalities of the smaller urban centers, such as Ottawa, London, Kitchener-Waterloo, Kingston, Barrie, are now looking at the potentially opportunities, how they can attract the employment center. Because as I mentioned earlier, there is a wage inflation, and that wage inflation will put a pressure on the large companies maybe to relocate their employment center.